Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chris, and this is my channel, Barnon 11970. Thank you, as always, for listening to what I have to say, and I hope you guys are having a great day. And there's something I want to show you guys. I was watching a video from two people I subscribed to. It was an interview with Mike Maloney. He's one of the people who talks a lot about gold and silver, and I'm subscribed to his channel. And Greg Hunter was doing an interview on him. It was about a 40-minute interview, which I really was fascinated with, really liked what they had to say. And there was a segment in there where they were talking about the economy and how when economies destroy the middle class, they tend to vote in a certain direction. And something they said really caught my attention, so I want you to listen to this. I will do a screen share, obviously, and due to fair use, I can only show a little bit of it. And as usual, I will post the link in the description below, so if you want to check out the entire thing, you can. But listen very carefully to what Mike Maloney says, and then compare it to somebody that is in the presidency, or they're running for presidency at this point. Now, I've basically said at this point, I don't believe in either candidate. I mean, one of the reasons why I don't talk about Hillary pretty much at all is pretty much she's a known criminal. And to even discuss anything about her is ridiculous at this point. I think she should be locked up. And it was actually funny, I had somebody call me a Hillary shill the other day, which I find hysterical, because if I am, I'm an incredibly bad one, because I've repeatedly said that she's no good, she's a criminal, and she should be locked up. But I also say, as much as Donald Trump says everything that you want to hear, and I understand, why people like him, because he is very charismatic, and he is getting the attention of people, and he is talking about some good stuff. I really feel in the end that neither one is going to help us become better, because even if they were 100% legit, it's a corrupt system, and one person can't fix it. So until we change the system itself, it doesn't matter who goes in. And I think the problem is some people are just getting too emotionally attached to this presidency, this potential presidency election, and it makes you think in different ways that maybe you might not want to do. And I know some of the things I say are not the most popular. I'm not trying to be popular. I'm trying to be genuine and share things that I feel are relevant. So I want you to listen to what he has to say, and then you can make your own opinion there. I don't tell you how to think. I just give you alternatives, so you have the choice of thinking in several different ways to draw your own conclusion. So the video, it's going to start around 24 minutes and 15 seconds into the video. It's a 41-minute video. Here we go. So again, I will post the link in the description below if you want.
There aren't quite as many of the middle class, and if the middle class doesn't protect themselves, if we end up losing the middle class through this crisis, then they tend to vote very differently if they're impoverished. This is where Hitler came from. It is where Mao came from. It is where there were two hyperinflations during the French Revolution that directly led to the rise of Napoleon.
So they would kill the middle class, and they would vote for the liberal or the Democratic candidate. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, they vote for some very charismatic guy that can promise them that if they follow him, he'll show them the way out of this predicament So they promise a lot of hope, and they become a despot. And
Okay, now if you heard that, first of all, he says he, which kind of gets you to understand what he's talking about. But he says that throughout history, if you see how people like Hitler and Napoleon and some other dictators came into power, they destroy the middle class, and then all of a sudden a very charismatic person comes along saying they're going to save you and protect you from everything. It gets people to emotionally run high, and then bad things can potentially happen. Now, obviously, that doesn't guarantee that this is the case or that's going to be similar to something in the past, but you cannot dismiss what has happened to something that could potentially happen. So I'm not going to sit here and say that these things are going to happen, but you cannot dismiss something even if there is a small chance. And if you think about what he said, he's talking about people when they're impoverished, they tend to follow a very charismatic person who says, "Follow me, I will lead you." And if you see what Donald Trump is doing, that's exactly what he's what he's doing to the people. And they are so emotionally attached at this point that even people that are in this quote-unquote truther community, who are more awoken than the average person, is falling into what I feel could be a potential trap. Now, again, I'm not going to say Hillary is a million times worse. If Trump isn't the answer, she is the furthest from the answer. So make no mistake, I am not for Hillary. And I know a lot of people will say, well, what do we do? I mean, you have two choices. You have Hillary and you have Trump. Well, no, you don't. In a supposed free society, you're supposed to have an endless amount of choices. And if you just vote for the lesser of two evils, then you're still asking for evil. Now, we have one that's Hillary Clinton that we know is evil. And we have a second that, because they haven't been in politics, people are giving them a free pass. Now, remember, he has not only donated tons of money to previous campaigns. Do you know that he has donated money to the Clinton Foundation? Now, if you understand what's going on through the WikiLeaks about how there's that pay-to-play kind of scenario through that quote-unquote charitable place, the Clinton Foundation, well, he's donated to it. So I know what I'm saying is going to make people unhappy. Some people may even get depressed from this stuff. But what I'm trying to say is, if you avoid participating in a false game, a play, you will not be part of a corrupt system. You don't have to be part of it. And that's why I say all the time, if you become more independent, where you don't rely on governments or anybody else to take care of you, and you limit it as much as possible. Like, I have morons that say every now and then, it's like, oh, you still get fiat money. Well, yes, I mean, until you could buy groceries with something else, what other choice do we have? But as much as I can, I take that fiat currency, and instead of putting it in the bank hoping it'll accrue interest, which these days we know, especially if you live in Europe, that ain't happening, and if you live in America, it's barely happening, I convert it into things like gold and silver and other items that could potentially give me wealth later on, investments. So, these people are such hypocrites, because unless they get paid in seashells or something, I mean, I would love to know what they're using. We have no choice in a corrupt system while people choose to participate in it, but we can change it. So I will post the link in the description. I think I already did it. So once this video uploads, you'll be able to listen to the whole video. It talks about gold and silver and where they think it's headed. And Mike Maloney, like he says here, about $2,000 to $5,000 worth of gold in the future. Now, keep in mind, with prices like that, that means the economy's doing really bad and the dollar has really plummeted. So $5,000 in gold in a few years will not buy you the same thing as it could today, because if you devalue the currency, you need more of it to make the same purchase. So don't think that if you get $5,000 gold, that means you're a millionaire. It just means you're keeping up with inflation. So again, better to keep up with inflation than lose value of your currency, which we've seen throughout history. So all I'm saying is, ladies and gentlemen, is if you believe in a free society, that you are limited to two options, then you don't know your own government and you don't know your own freedom. So those of you who feel trapped and say, well, I only have two choices, well, you don't. If you want to believe you do, then of course that's going to get you upset, because either side is not going to ultimately end up helping the people. I mean, I issued a challenge the other day, even though barely anybody watches my videos. I said in there, show me a president that has improved the nation in your lifetime. And I've yet to have one. And the closest person that even attempted to try and do something was John F. Kennedy. And we all know what happened to him for that, with things like Executive Order 11110. And if you don't know what that is, I highly recommend you look it up. So what Mike Maloney is trying to suggest to you is be careful, because when they purposely try and destroy the middle class, because the middle class can basically become independent. If you're poor, you need things like government subsidies, you need things like food stamps, and you need, them to pay for everything, so you become dependent on them. They don't want the middle class, which could basically be independent and stand on their own. because then the government really can't control them. So if you devalue currency and you make things more expensive, not that they have become more expensive, it's because they devalue the currency, you need more of it to make the same purchase, and you start having all these different regulations, and you have things like Obamacare and all this stuff, it's geared to destroy the middle class. And then when they start becoming poorer, they start to panic, and then all of a sudden you'll get some savior that comes along and says, oh, don't worry, I will save the day. Ever hear the expression, if it's too good to be true, it usually is? And I see so many people so emotionally attached to this election that you cannot speak logic to them anymore. And people would rather ignore me than see that they have a choice, and that's to not vote for either and not be part of a corrupt system. You can, if you are a Girl Scout cookie seller, you can't join the mafia and say, I'm going to change the mafia. They're going to laugh at you and murder you. So it doesn't matter how many people you put in there to try and change it. It's a corrupt system. We need to change the entire system. And that takes work. That takes effort. That requires people to look in the mirror and see things for what they really are. And if you keep kidding yourself, all you do is hurt your future. So, I mean, people say they get depressed by some of the things I talk about. Well, what happens each time we lose more freedom? When we have less money, isn't that more depressing? And yet we're allowing it because we continue and think the next person's going to come along and save the day, even though the last person didn't, and the last person before that didn't, and so on and so forth. I mean, we had the greatest economy right after World War II. And at one point, all the way up to the 1980s, we got to the point where we could have eliminated our debt because the price of gold was at the point where we could have literally paid off our debt in full and been in a surplus, and we chose not to do it. So this is what happens. Not everything is based on action. A lot of times it's based on inaction. And people these days are so afraid to admit things, and they just want to climb on the first thing that makes them feel good. I mean, it's the typical snake oil salesman that says, I have the answers to everything. And if you think that's the case, I mean, I wish I was wrong. And I'll tell you, I will be more than happy to make a video saying I'm wrong if Trump gets elected and he ends up saving us all and the world becomes a better place. You think I'm going to be embarrassed or ashamed to admit I was wrong if that's the case? I mean, because that means things are going good. But I mean, please, ladies and gentlemen, governments are not set up to help the people become wealthy, to become smarter, to become healthier. Because if that was the case, we'd already have it. And it hasn't happened. So I'm sorry if people don't like to hear what I have to say. I'm not saying it because I just want to be Mr. Negativity. It's because I see what's going on, and it frustrates me that people don't want to change it. And like I said, if I use the Titanic reference, just imagine if you were back in the days of the Titanic and you heard of this luxury ship and it's going on its first initial cruise. It's like everybody who's anybody is going to be on that ship. And you knew a year in advance that that boat was going to go, and you were going to spend your year to try and save all the money you can so you could be on that first voyage. And you are so excited about going on that trip, and you are bragging to your friends, and just as you're about to get on board, I come along and say, listen, I just want to let you know I'm from the future. This boat is going to hit an iceberg, or whatever happened, doesn't matter, but let's assume the iceberg story is true. I tell you that the boat is going to hit an iceberg and it's going to sink. Now, if you decide to listen to that, you're going to say, wow, you know, I was so looking forward to going on that boat. I was so looking forward to it. This is so disappointing. I mean, now what am I going to do? I already spent money on the tickets. I can't get my money back. You've now ruined my vacation. You ruined my life. And you decide not to go on anyway because you listen to it, and even though it's depressing and even though it upset you, you decide to listen, and then you don't go on the boat. And then you find out the next day the boat did sink, and 90% of the people on that boat died. Aren't you going to be happy you weren't on that boat? Even though at first the news was very depressing? Now just imagine if you took that same scenario and you decided to say, oh, who the hell are you? That's crazy. This boat, they said it's unsinkable. I'm not listening to you. I already bought my ticket. I'm going on this wonderful once-in-a-lifetime vacation. I've been waiting my whole life for this, and you get on that boat. How do you think you're going to feel when you are one of the people that didn't get on one of the lifeboats and you know that boat is sinking and you're going to die? Then what? What do you do then? So my videos, as depressing as they might seem at times, as negative as they might seem, is I'm trying to keep you off that boat. so you don't have to suffer. Because whether you suffer or not does not affect me. That's what a lot of people don't seem to realize. What happens to you does not affect me, because I've been prepared since 2011 for any situation, whether it be a simple snowstorm or whether it be a full-blown war. I'm prepared for everything. So I'm doing this because I care about the well-being of other people, because, silly me, I care about more than just myself. Even though I constantly get attacked, even though I constantly get ridiculed, I'm always told I'm not doing enough, or I have to do things better and do the work for everybody else, instead of people taking responsibility for themselves. What's happening right now, I see the writing on the wall. I could be wrong, but I am also not 100% wrong. People automatically dismiss something because it sounds different. That is how people like Hitler and Napoleon and all these other dictators got into power, is because we believe them. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, before Hitler got into power, he has many photos of him surrounding himself with children, and how they said how we need to regulate guns to protect the children. And look what's happening. Look what happened with him. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am sorry if I rain on your parade. That's not my purpose. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to warn people because I want to help them. I'm prepared. I'm not worried. But I am worried for other people because I don't like to see people suffer. It's one of the reasons why I have 3 stray cats, because I don't like to see things suffer. And I try and do what I can. There are a few that appreciate it. There's some that seem to hate me for it, and millions who will never hear what I'm having to say. So we'll find out November 9th what happens. And if I'm wrong, that's great. But if I'm right and no one listened, I'm going to feel horrible that my message didn't get through. But if I'll look at it this way, if one person listened to me and they prepared because of what I said, not out of fear, but for preparation, and something does happen, then I think I'm going to be very proud of the fact that I at least touched somebody else's life and helped them. So many people on YouTube think about themselves, that all they do is think about how many thousands of dollars I can get from the people. They use the clickbait. They're always talking about fear porn. They're pandering to their audiences, telling you everything you need to hear. And I just won't do that, because I have respect for not only you, but for me. And that doesn't mean I get everything right. So if somebody wants to ridicule me because I sell Orgon pyramids and make organic soaps, and I still to this day try and make some fiat currency so I can buy more gold and silver, and I can buy more investments and turn around and use it, well, you know what? They need to look in the mirror too. You know, he who lives in a glass house cannot throw stones. So I'm trying my best. If you want to listen, that's fine. If you don't want to listen, that's also fine. I never claim to have all the answers. I'm just basing it on my instincts. I trust my instincts. And when it comes to the presidency in this country, I hope I'm wrong. I don't want to be right. But I know for a fact that Hillary Clinton is the absolute worst choice, but I also don't believe that Trump is the answer. I really believe he's telling you everything that you want to hear, and bad things could potentially happen from that. And it's usually the people's fault. So I want to thank you guys. Do what you want. If you want to listen to some of my other videos, please do. Don't base what you think about me on one video. I've seen so many people, they call me a shill and they call me all these other things based on one video. I mean, you have to, if that's how you investigate things in life, you're going to be so easily led. And I'm trying to get people to think for themselves, to question things, to not just fall into what the masses do. Because if you follow what the masses do, the masses tend to be wrong more times than they're right, because they don't investigate things, they just follow things. And if you think this is going to be a different time, I hope you're right, and we'll leave it at that. So if you want to leave a comment, that's great. If you want to share this, that's wonderful. I want to thank the maybe 100 or 200 people that want to listen to what I have to say. If it helps one person, I've done a good job. So thank you very much. Leave your comments, hit subscribe, and don't forget to have your trolls spayed or neutered. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you soon.